for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 314 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we're coming at you from the Going for Two Live Podcast Network, and we're live every Wednesday on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. If you are currently on Twitter, we cannot see your comments, so go find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@GoingForTwoLive. You can see it there on the bottom of the screen. I'm here with always my co-host, Mr. Ryan Steerfoss. What's up, Ryan?
I'm just excited to talk to John about some rookies tonight. I'll be quick because it's a jam-packed episode, as you like to say.
Jam-packed episode. We got a lot to cover. And this guy needs no introduction. Literally, when I put out these promos for these shows, I always kind of, tease a little bit about what we're going to do. We're going to do a mock draft. We're going to do buy, sell. When I have John on, I just tweet out like, yeah, we're going to have John. And that's all I need. That's the only promo I need for John. What's up, John?
Hey, that's very kind. I appreciate it, man. It's my favorite month of the year now. I absolutely love March. I'm about 98% through with all my research, putting it together. I've seen probably over 75 rookies by now. Haven't exactly counted them all up, but it's time to talk NFL draft, man. You can smell it. I think we're like 6 weeks away or something. Yeah. It's close. Really, it's coming quick. So I'm excited. I think this is my 4th year with you guys on this. All right. So it's a pleasure to be with you 4 years in a row, gentlemen.
Yeah, good stuff. Of course, John, if you didn't know, he's at footballdiehards.com. He's also the co-host of the Rookie Big Board podcast. You can follow him at GridironSkull91. John, just real quick, if you got anything you wanted to plug real quick that's going on with you?
The only thing that I also do college fantasy football, and that is up on Fantrax right now. You can see our early look at the 2023 college fantasy football rankings. If you're a Devy player, if you are a C2C player or Dynasty player, college fantasy football gives you a leg up on the competition.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, today's show, as always, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments, private leagues, and pick'ems for every major sport. Use our promo code GF2 and get a deposit match up to $100. It's as simple as that. Sign up, use promo code GF2, and get started drafting your best balls. We got some great stuff tonight. As we mentioned, we got a jam-packed show. We're going to do our 4th annual March Madness rookie tournament. But first, as always, kick it off with our nonsense draft.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right. Tonight, we are mock drafting cool fictional objects from movies and TVs you'd want to own in real life. And John, there's a clear number one for me. So there's a 101 here, and I'm hoping that you don't take it, but you got the 101 here. So where are you going?
So I had to do some research to get prepared tonight. And Jeff had warned me that he has a clear number one. So I don't know if I got it or not. But to me, there's a clear number one. And that is Batman's utility belt.
Oh,
when I was a kid, man, I loved the Batman. By far my favorite hero as a kid. And I love the fact that he could get anything was in that utility belt, man.
Yeah. So you're talking the like 70s utility belt with like the pellet and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
The old Batman TV show from, the 60s, but you could wear it and no one would know you have a utility belt, that you got all these cool gadgets. So the number one to me was Batman's utility belt.
Good stuff. All right. So that's a little bit before my time, but my 101 was not taken by John. And it's funny because I mentioned this draft to my daughter who's 10, and she started getting into these movies just recently. We're watching The Mandalorian currently.
Ooh, I love it.
My 101 is the lightsaber. I would love a lightsaber. That's my 101. As a kid growing up, you had the lightsaber toy where you'd like move it around and it makes a noise, and you thought you can go in the backyard and be like Luke Skywalker. So yeah, my 101 is definitely the lightsaber.
What's your practical use for it as an adult?
I would probably cut my arm off if I used it, but just to be cool, just to look at it and like be able to pull it out at parties and just show it off would be awesome.
Well, here's Jeff. If it cuts your arm off, does it cauterize the wound so that you don't die? I've always felt like, hey, that's so bad. You're cauterized. You don't bleed to death.
I mean, there's never blood in Star Wars, and they use it, so I'd assume so.
It's
Science.
Science, right?
All right, Ryan, you got the 103 here. What you got?
I'm doing the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
That's a great one.
I'm just traveling around everywhere and doing whatever I want. It sounds like a good old time.
That was 102 on my list, was the DeLorean. That's a good one. That's a great pick. All right, John, we're back to you here.
So I had the lightsaber on my list, but it wasn't 1 or 2. So I feel I got a little lucky there. I did not have the DeLorean, so you got me on a good one there, Ryan. I didn't think about it, but that's a great one. I'm going to go with one of the things that I think is the coolest because I would love to fly. It is Thor's hammer. Nice. Man, that thing, Thor's hammer, I can summon lightning, I can fly, and I can knock people out with Thor's hammer, and no one else can lift it up. So I'm going to go Thor's hammer on that one.
That's a great one. I got that on my list as well. All right, so Ryan took my DeLorean and being able to travel back in time. So I'm going to go with my second choice for traveling back in time, and I'm going with the hot tub time machine.
I love that movie, dude.
Take you back in the time in the hot tub. If I can't have the DeLorean, I'll take the hot tub.
And it's at least a hot tub if you don't want to travel.
Yeah, exactly. Still has a good use if you're not using it to time travel. All right, Ryan, you're at the 106.
So I was going to go the Iron Man suit but everyone's gone too many superhero things. And it kind of just threw me off. So I'm going to go with the memory eraser for Men in Black.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like I get away with anything there.
Yes, you could.
And I have a little bit of a mischievous streak. So, yeah, it would be a good time.
That would be awesome. That would be
get away with anything. You throw some shades on.
Yes, you could. All right, John, you got the 107 here. It's your last pick.
So I'm going to go back to the cartoon universe. And my brother and I used to watch this cartoon all the time. And it is the Jetsons. And there are so many little technological things that now are actually true from the Jetsons. But I'm going to go to what I always wanted was a flying car.
Yes.
I want a Jetsons flying car. I want to go to California, not wait in lines. Just get in my flying car and I go to California. That'd be the best, man. Yeah. No airplane, no one else. Put on my Sirius XM and just fly to California.
That's awesome. All right, so Ryan's got the DeLorean. He's got his vehicle, and John just took his flying car. So I need to get me a vehicle now. So I'm going to go with Kit from Knight Rider. I don't know if Ryan's old enough for Knight Rider or not.
I am not.
Yeah.
I am,
but I know what it is. It's that talking car.
Yes,
the talking car. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, that was one of my top. As a kid, man, I loved that show. And then even the music was like when you heard the music come on, you knew Knight Rider was coming on. You're like, you get for it. So yeah, I'm going with Kit. All right, Ryan, bring it home. What you got for our last pick here?
I'm going with something the kids nowadays will know, the younger generation. I'm going with the portal gun from Rick and Morty, where he can literally make a portal to anywhere in the universe, galaxy, multiverse, Taco Bell, wherever. I'm going with the portal gun.
Yeah, you definitely went new school with that one for sure, because I don't think I even know what that is. But
I had to look up the youngins.
My oldest son and daughter, the two oldest, love Rick and Morty. I have not. I've maybe seen it twice with them, but they love that show. So I think Ryan's onto something.
My fiance loves it. I'm like 50-50 on it, but it has its really funny moments. But that thing's awesome.
Good stuff. All right, as I mentioned at the top, we're going to be doing our March Madness rookie tournament. Let me explain how this went. I took our aggregate rankings, our Superflex rankings, took the top 32 players that were currently ranked. Ryan, Brian Ford, and Josh did our rankings for us. So I took the top 32, ran some polls on Twitter after matching them up like a bracket style, March Madness style, and just basically ran the polls. Everyone voted on them as they moved through the brackets. And then tonight, we're just going to go through all 32 of them. We'll go through the matchups one at a time, and we'll talk about the loser of each bracket. So we're talking about the same guys multiple times. So we'll go through the loser on each one of these, and we'll kick it off here. We'll go. We'll do all the first seeds and the 2 seeds and the 3 seeds and so on and so forth through that first round. So I'll kick it off right here at the top, John, and this one's going to be an easy one to talk about. But Bijan Robinson wins his matchup 91-9 versus the QB Hendon Hooker. Obviously, Hooker's the loser here. So give us your thoughts on Hooker as a quarterback coming into the NFL.
Hooker had a bad draw because I think he's a nice little sleeper in here, but he's up against by far the number 1 pick overall in the draft in my book. Hooker is the only quarterback in this class who hit 6 out of 6 benchmarks in my quarterback profile. If you haven't looked at his numbers, people, Hendon Hooker's passing numbers are off the charts. I have a second round grade if he passes the medicals. We don't completely know, but I love Hendon Hooker, and I'm hoping to get him in the 3rd round of my dynasty drafts all off season.
Good stuff. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Hooker?
Oh, I freaking love Hendon Hooker. He's my at worst quarterback 4. If he wasn't injured, I think I'd consider him over Richardson. He's accurate. He's smart. He doesn't make bad decisions. He had 5 interceptions in the last 2 years combined. Like, he's a good, solid player. He's athletic. He's everything you want. He has the size. It's just that injury, and he's a little bit older. He's a good football player. He can make a team very, very happy.
A nice name to pay attention to for Superflex for sure. All right, let's go to the other 1-8 seed here. We got quarterback Bryce Young. He wins his matchup 87-13 versus running back Devin A-Chain. And John, give us your thoughts on A-Chain here, who just blazed in the combine.
Yeah, I just opened up 4.32, and he actually ran as a sophomore in track and field a 10.14 in the 100 meters. So, and that's on record. Like, that's solid. Devin A-Chain is, I think, the fastest back, the quick twitch athlete of the running back group. However, I am worried about his weight. He's 188, if my memory serves me well. 188. I'm a big believer in the 200-pound benchmark for a running back. I think A-Chain will have a role in the NFL, but I do believe his ceiling is capped. He just isn't a 250-touch running back.
Nice. Yeah, I think I heard on a podcast talking about your 200 benchmark and how running backs that earn 200 just don't have a lot of success at the NFL level.
They just don't. The numbers are bad, my friend.
Yep. Ryan, what are your thoughts on A-Chain?
I think, like I think John said, I think he has a role in the NFL. I don't think the role is something that's beneficial for us in fantasy. Like, I think he's a return man, gadget player. Bring in like in obvious passing downs. I think it's a huge tease. Like, he's the guy we fall for every year, who's like a later round guy who blazes. Jeff will fall for him this year. It's a fact. But I've been trying to talk him out of it every week. But like, he's a trick.
Yeah, I fall for those small, fast guys every year.
I love the player, but it's not something for fantasy, man.
Yep. All right. The other 1-8 matchup, CJ Stroud wins his matchup 81-19 versus running back Kendra Miller. And Ryan, I'm going to you first on this one. Give me your thoughts on Kendra Miller.
Oh, I freaking love Kendra Miller. I don't think I've left a mock draft without him so far this year. I think he's a very creative runner. He has a nice burst. He has a second gear. He is a monster in open space. I think he will be a little bit of a rotational, but who really isn't outside of maybe one guy this year. But there's a lot to like him. He does everything pretty well. Anything you'll ever see is he sometimes gets stuck behind, running behind the line, and had a couple fumble issues, but there's a ton to like with him, and he could be a really good back for a team.
Good stuff. John, what do you think of Miller?
I like Kendra Miller a lot. I think I might be a little ahead of a lot of people. I have him in number 5 in my rankings. I do like big backs. I am concerned he's not special at anything, but he's so good at everything. And if he can take his weight and add power to it, I think he's going to be really good at the NFL level. I like Kendre Miller a lot. Hey, I think he's way better. Oh my God, the BYU Tyler Algier. He's way better than Tyler Algier. And look at what Algier did last year.
He's got a nice little burst compared to Algier.
Oh my God,
John, I also have him 5th.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I really like Kendre Miller a lot.
So
I feel like I undersold how much I actually like him. But yeah, he's my 5 as well.
Yeah, Jamie's in the chat. He says he's got him at number 4, so he likes him a little bit more than y'all do. But that's the most love I've heard.
Me and Jamie actually agree for a change. Kane liked him too when he was on the show.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
Kane loved him. He was the one who got me to really. He was looking in the next day.
Yep. All right, the last 1-8 matchup here. Receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba wins his matchup 92-8 versus probably one of the MVPs of the combine. If you're not Anthony Richardson, and that's tight end Darnell Washington. Now, these were kind of done right around the same time as the combine was going on. I don't think he would have beat Jackson Smith-Njigba, but I think he may have gotten a little more points than just 8 in the matchup. But talk about Darnell Washington a little bit, John.
First, the size and athleticism are off the charts. You can't coach size and speed. He's 6'7", 264, runs a 4.64. I wonder what the physics of the human body running at 264 pounds and running at his top speed. He might kill me if I fell in front of him. Literally, I might not be able to breathe. I mean, he is an incredible athlete. I do question his pass catching, but there's going to be an NFL team. You just can't bypass that size and athletic ability. I think he has upside. I think he's my biggest fear, he's so good at run blocking. They just might have him wham the defensive ends all day long, which would limit his ability to catch passes, is what we want in fantasy. But man, he is just a great NFL tight end.
Yeah, that was something I heard going into the combine is can he catch, because he played behind a pass catching tight end where he was mostly run blocking. Then, of course, he had that viral catch where he caught that one-handed catch on the sideline.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he can catch. He can catch. So,
and you're talking about Brock Bowers, Jeff.
Yes.
Who's going to be the Kyle Pitts in next year's draft. If he tests out like that. But, the skills and the film are incredible for Brock Bowers.
Good stuff. Ryan, what you got for Darnell Washington?
Mainly the same thing. I mean, kind of good. He's such a good blocker. It just I've never enjoyed watching a tight end block
He just destroys people.
He just annihilates people. It's going to be really hard to not have him in line blocking with that. But I think it kind of limits his cap. But he'll be on the field, which is a good thing, which means red zone opportunities. Because
I was just going to say
that height in the red zone is huge.
Yeah, being on the field sometimes is all you need. If you're a blocking tight end, you're in those red zone packages, those goal line packages.
Best ability is availability.
Yep, exactly, 100%. You can't catch the ball if you're sitting on the sideline. So I kind of like that. All right, I kind of going from him being the quote unquote maybe the MVP to the actual MVP of the combine. Number 2 here, Anthony Richardson, taking his matchup in the 2-7 at 84-16 over receiver Xavier Hutchinson. Talk about Hutchinson a little bit, John, because I've seen his name thrown around pretty much all over the place. He's kind of a late second, and I've seen him go as late as mid-third rounders as well.
I have a 3rd round grade on him. Some of the film is impressive. He has 254 career catches. He has NFL size at 6'2", 203. He's not overly athletic. He's good enough, but I don't think he's not a big home run hitter. He only averaged 11.5 yards per catch in college, because basically if you watch him, he catches it and he gets tackled. There's no yak yardage with Xavier Hutchinson, but I think he'll have a role in the NFL.
Yeah. Brian, what are your thoughts on Hutchinson?
Yeah, I mean, he's a nice big body receiver. He attacks the catch point. He really kind of struggles separation. Really struggles separation and getting open. And you saw a lot of concentration drops, and like I said, he's a day 3 pick, but he'll be on a team. Teams want size that receiver position, but I don't know what that ceiling could be.
Fair enough. All right, the other 2-7 matchup we have is Quentin Johnston, and receiver Parker Washington. Johnston takes this one 89-11. Ryan, we'll go back to you on this one. Talk about Washington a little bit.
I really like Washington. I think he's going to be a nice slot receiver in the NFL. He has arrogant hands. That dude catches everything. It's like he has stickum on it. He plays with good speed, and he has nice play strength for being a little bit, smaller guy. And he creates a ton of separation. I think he'll be a monster in the slot. I think he can terrorize people and be a volume guy in the NFL.
I think that's one superlative I've never actually heard anybody use. Arrogant hands. I like it, though. I like it. He's got arrogant hands. Good stuff. All right, John, what are your thoughts on Washington here?
Talk to add on to what Ryan said with his arrogant hands. If you saw Sean Clifford throw the football at all,
it's so bad.
There are some catches that Parker Washington makes. You're like, oh my God. He was like basically horizontal with the earth as stretched out as he humanly be. And like with one hand, he holds on the ball. He's very good with the football. I wonder what it'd be like if he had an accurate quarterback who could get him the ball, because he can catch anything you throw to him.
Dude, I think Sean Clifford's just made me fall in love with Penn State receivers in the last 2 years.
He's so bad at the quarterback.
They just have to be good at catching the ball with him.
Yes, they have to be good.
All right, the other 2-7 matchup is Jordan Addison, receiver, versus Kenny McIntosh, who had a bad combine. Addison takes this one 97-3. Ryan, give me your thoughts on McIntosh.
He's going to be a short yardage back in the next level. The issue is with him being a short yardage back, he still tends to dance behind the line and doesn't really attack the hole. And when you're his size and lacks speed and explosion, that's a little bit of an issue. For his size, he's a decent pass catcher and he can stay on the field. But, man, that athleticism really hurts.
Yeah, that's the thing I heard most about it. And I think his 40 time, John has that 200-pound mark as a benchmark. I think the 40 time was a benchmark where there are not too many successful running backs at that benchmark.
What was it, 4.64?
4.62.
4.62? Yeah, not good. That's not good.
That's not good. And you said he's a goal line. He's only 204.
That's only
It's not like he's 220.
Georgia used him oh my God.
I know, it's Georgia. I'll just say this one thing. He's the biggest dropper over this process for me.
Yes.
Because I gave him the Georgia bump, high-rated recruit. He was impressive on film, good pass catcher, but every athleticism, size, you're like, oh, the boxes are not being checked.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's look at the 3-6 matchups. A tight end that did drop in some boards because of his combine. Michael Mayer at 81 over Cedric Tillman, who had 19. I'm going to go to you, Ryan, because I know you like Tillman a lot. So give me your thoughts on Tillman.
I was going to ask you to go to John first on that, just because I feel like I've talked about Tillman a lot, and I wanted to hear what he said before I interjected. Because I love Tillman, but let him go, please.
Go ahead, John.
I like Tillman myself. I think he's the second best X receiver, outside receiver. We'll talk about who's number one later. But if you're looking for your classic X, big bodied, outside, he can get off press coverage. He's 6'3", 213. You've got to watch the film from 2021. He was so damn good. He got injured this year. You can't look at the production model and say he pops because he just doesn't have the number of career receptions. But he averaged 14.9 yards a catch as an X receiver. I really like him. I wish he was a little faster, but 4.54, 213, it doesn't bother me too much.
All right.
Yeah, not at his size.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan. Talk about him a little bit. I know you talked about him a little bit on the show already.
I think he's a really solid route runner. He uses his body well. He manipulates. He's not that fast like what we want, but he's so good at manipulating his speed and manipulating the corners. He creates separation and gets open. The way he annihilates people on comeback routes is just something fun to watch. He'll be a good number 2 wide receiver on an NFL team.
Oh,
nice.
Real, like, very trusted number 2 receiver on the team.
You know what? I really think he looked good in Big Blue, New York Giants.
It's a good landing
They
spot.
need that type of guy. SEC, Tennessee, big
Yeah,
body.
because they only love small slot receivers in the Giants.
That's all they got. They need.
He would be great there to go with all them slot receivers.
All right, the other 3-6 matchup, John. It is running back Zach Evans wins the matchup 79-21 over Rashee Rice. I know I going for 2. A couple of the guys in the chat there, they love Rashee Rice. So give me your thoughts about him, John.
I do like Rashee Rice. Now, it's fascinating because my model loves him. I like the film study, but we have to understand he's from a group of 5 program. And in general, the players outside the Power 5 conferences, and that's the Mountain West, the Pac-12, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC. In general, the group of 5 receivers have a higher road to climb, and they haven't been as successful as Power 5 wide receivers. That's the one reason I like Tillman so much. I think Rashee Rice can be a number 2 receiver, and he'd be a great number 3 receiver. I do not believe he can be the alpha number 1, but I do like him.
Good stuff. What are your thoughts on him, Ryan?
Yeah, like, for playing that smaller conference, he bullied people. Like, he played he played very physical. He boxes out really well, played above the rim, and he worked pretty well after the catch too. Like, he ran very strong, but he's a little bit older. That lack of real competition is question mark. There's a lot to kind of worry there.
Yeah,
but there's also a lot of raw skills to like for a team who has patience to wait for him.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, the other 3-6 matchup is Zach Charbonnet wins his matchup 74-26 versus Dalton Kincaid, the tight end. And I know from listening to podcasts that John loves Charbonnet, so I'm going to go to you on this one, John. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, first, anyone who vote for Dalton Kincaid in this, get off the alcohol, man. You need to have your eyes cleared up. And I like Dalton Kincaid. He's the best F receiver in this. I think he's a little bit Evan Ingram. He has the athletic ability, the route running. He's tough. I don't think he's a great run blocker, but I do think he's a little better than Evan Ingram. There's a role for him in the NFL. I know Ryan might appreciate this. I really think you're a Baltimore fan. But it would work too. I think he'd be perfect with a Freiermuth or a Mark Andrews where he doesn't have to do the dirty work, but he could really beat linebackers and undersized safeties as an F receiver. But these guys take a couple years. Ingram's not the norm. No. Evan Ingram was, the outlier who was good right away. I think Dalton Kincaid needs 2 years at least to develop.
Well, he was good right away and then not good for a while. And then he got to be good again.
Yeah, then he got good again, yes.
That position, like that F receiver type tight end,
is hard.
It's hard in the NFL. How many of these guys who we thought were locks, first round picks, have just failed in the league in that role?
Way too many, Ryan.
That 242. That's a little small, man.
It is. He's a little. I like to say he's a little light in the butt.
Like at least Freiermuth and Andrews are both well over 250. Like they're big guys.
And when I saw Andrews at Oklahoma, he played big. You knew he was big.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Kincaid's that physical big. He's just tall and lanky.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, the last 3-6 matchup here. Receiver Josh Downs, 83-17 over Marvin Mims, who's been getting some buzz since the combine. I've seen some guys pushing up the boards there. So give me your thoughts on Mims, Ryan.
I think Mims is one of the more underrated guys in the draft. And in one of the top slot receivers in the draft. He is so good at finding holes in zones. He creates separation, small spaces. He abuses everybody inside. He gives me like those Deontay Johnson vibes where he's just kind of open, runs well with the ball. There's a lot to like with him. His release is very good for being an inside receiver. He's been productive most of his career. He's a good football player.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard actually people have pushed him up into the top of the second round or late first in one quarterback leagues. John, what are your thoughts on Mims? Go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
I was going to say, I have both these guys graded the exact same right now.
Really?
Like they have the exact same player grade for me.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think if we had this a little bit after the combine, this result may have been a little bit different. What are your thoughts on Mims, John?
This is why every part of the draft process matters. From film watching to end of season production stats to Senior Bowl to more film to the scouting, the combine. He has moved up the board. If it was December, he was like my number 11 or 12. When I saw he ran a 4.38, I went back, watched more film. He's 183. He's bigger than Josh Downs. He's bigger than Jalen Hyatt. He's bigger and heavier than I thought. So I have him at number 7. I love him. I think if an NFL team gets him in the second round, that's a great value. I think he's a very good player. And then I didn't realize, I kind of did, but I was always looking at Quentin Johnston's numbers for average yards per reception. Marvin Mims averaged 19 and a half.
Wow.
I'm an idiot. I talked about Josh Downs and not Mims.
Oh.
I was looking at my dad. I for some reason I thought Mims won because I thought we were post combine. I just realized I really fudged that up, and I didn't use using names, so nobody corrected me. So cool. I everything I said is not Josh Downs. So just forget him next time for me. But I also like Mims a lot.
Good stuff. All right. We'll wrap up the first round with the 4-5 matchups here. The first 4-5 matchup was quarterback Will Levis. He actually lost his matchup as the 4 seed, 48-52. Lost it to running back Tajay Spears. And I'll go to you first, Ryan, so you can make up for it here. We're talking about Tajay Spears here, not the quarterback.
No, the quarterback lost.
Oh, you're right. You're right. My bad. I'm making.
Oh, yeah.
We're off the rails, folks.
Yeah, I don't like Will Levis. Just in general as a prospect. I think he forces the ball. He's super inconsistent. His ball placement's all over the place. I don't love his decision making. The tools are there, the size, arm strength, all that, but there's a lot of questions. I think he's a project.
Yeah, fair enough. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on Will Levis.
I like Hendon Hooker more than him, who
Fair
we
enough.
talked about earlier, by a lot.
What about you, John? What's your thoughts on Levis?
I have major concerns. I have him number 5 in my rankings. I'm not moving him. I know there's people who are in love with him. I see the tools. I see the size. But this is why film matters. And I mean, I should actually say watching games matters. Every time I saw Will Levis play, I was disappointed. I thought he made some mental errors. I think everyone can be flustered when you rush the passer and hit him. But I think you can literally take Will Levis out of the game psychologically by hitting him. And I'm sorry, in the NFL, what you have to do is you have to deal with the pressure.
Yep.
You can say what you want about Eli Manning. That man knew how to take a beating. I'm sorry, this is a violent, physical game. Will Levis, you hit him a lot, and you can take him out of the game mentally. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work in the NFL. You have to be so mentally strong that when Von Miller pins your face into the grass, you still get up and call the next play. And there's not a lot of human beings who can do that.
Yeah, fair enough. We got a question in the chat here, and he texted me to make sure we answered it, so we'll get to it. Gerson here, he wants to know, how much do y'all guys implicate the RAS score for tight ends in your evaluation, John? Do you use that score at all?
I look at it to see if there's a wide discrepancy between what I think of the player and what the RAS score. So Zach Kuntz, I'll use an example. I had Zach Kuntz. He was a top 3 college fantasy football tight end. Kid was from Penn State. Dominated Old Dominion in 2021. Got injured in 2022. Off my radar. I thought he was going back to college. He goes to draft. Then he scores out of his mind at the combine. So I moved him up into like number 7 or 8 in my tight end rankings. But I'm just looking for large discrepancies between what I think and if they're close, then I'm fine with it. I just want those outliers like, oh, is he way more athletic? Or last year, remember Jalen Weidemeyer? Like, I'm like, oh my God, Jalen Weidemeyer.
He's undraftable.
Oh, he was so unathletic. I had him, he didn't even get drafted, right? So that's what I use it for. Large discrepancies.
Fair.
Ken Platt, who does that, his name's Ken, right? He actually posted like the correlation between Pro Bowler starters by position, like what position the RAS score mattered the most from, and tight end was either the least or second least where it mattered.
Yeah.
So if that means anything, it's one of the ones where Matt doesn't matter that much at all.
Doesn't matter that much. Fair enough. All right, let's go back to the 4-5. The next 4-5 matchup we have here is a guy that I've seen kind of he got applauded for his combine, and he also got downgraded for his combine, depending on how you talk to. Jalen Hyatt was the 4th seed, actually lost his matchup to Keishon Butte, 33-67. I think if this was done after the combine, this result may have been a little different. But for now, we'll talk about Jalen Hyatt a little bit, Ryan.
Dude, Jalen Hyatt's freaking good. He had a great combine. I'm sorry, a 4.4 flat is not bad, especially with a guy who creates a ton of separation. He's explosive, which he showed with his 40-inch vertical and 135-inch broad jump. He is always open. That man dominated SEC play. He put 5 tutties up on Alabama. Like, that man is good at football. Yeah. He's an elite athlete. There's nothing not to like there. There's really not.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I heard people talking negative about it because I didn't get a chance to watch the combine. I was at work on Saturday and Sunday. So I looked at just the numbers, and I'm like, he was top 5 in basically all the ones I looked at. I don't think he ran all the drills, but everything I looked at, his name was at the very top of that list. I was like,
he was top 5 in every category.
Yeah, I think he didn't run the 3-cone, I don't believe, but I think there's a few that
I don't have a number on the 3-cone.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Hyatt, John?
I think this is a classic example. Expectations were not met. So everyone, it says it's a bad combine because they were expecting a 3. Some people were expecting like a 4.29 out of him. You can't expect a record breaker out of all these receivers. If he was an unknown wide receiver and he put that number, let's say he's from Morehead State, and you looked at a kid at 6'0", 176 with a 4.40, he'd be the top of everyone's board shooting up the ranks. Jalen Hyatt can play football. Dude. And he has elite. I see Jamie there putting a great thing. He has elite NFL speed.
Yep.
He runs as fast in a uniform as he does out of it. And not everyone can say that. He has NFL speed. He will get separation at the NFL level, and he's a game changer. Your safeties have to deal with him on every play.
Good stuff.
Dude, he was 86th percentile all time for 40, 92nd vertical, 97th broad jump. 97th. That dude's explosive.
He is.
He's going to embarrass you out there.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yes. All right. 4-5 matchup here. We got Tank Bigsby going up against running back Roschon Johnson. Tank takes this one 59-41 and probably our closest first round matchup of all of them. So we'll talk about Roschon Johnson first. Ryan, what you got?
I mean, Roschon was a little bit of a disappointment at the combine, but he's still close to 220-pound back, even though he ran that 4.58. He's still under that kill zone of the 4.6. But we knew he wasn't going to be super fast, but he runs hard. He breaks tackles. He's going to have a role as a rotational piece in the NFL, 2-down back. He's a good back. It's just he's not going to be the big breaking speed, but he's going to be able to pop off 4.5 yards a carry. Very seriously. It's just that long speed he lacks. His 10-yard split was top notch though.
Yeah.
So that short burst was really good, and it just slowed down at the end. And the guy that size, that's a little bit more important to me.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, John? Thoughts on Roschon Johnson, the new Rojo?
I'll just tell you how I think of these two players. Roschon is number 8 in my rankings, and Tank Bigsby is number 12. Ooh. I'll take Roschon all day long. I think he's an underrated athlete. Straight line speed doesn't matter with a 219-pounder. I don't care. Yeah. Like Ryan said, his short burst is there. He has lateral quickness, and he's a pass catcher. Roschon Johnson's going to be a better NFL back than he is a college back, and part of it is he played behind Bijan. What was the man going to do? I like Roschon Johnson a lot. And he played Wildcat a lot. If you watch Texas, He ran the Wildcat a lot for the Longhorns, and he was a quarterback in high school. He's a very interesting running back. You can do a lot of things with Roschon Johnson.
Good stuff.
He had a higher RAS score than Tank Bigsby, by the way.
Oh, I think he's much better than Tank Bigsby.
I do too, yeah.
Good stuff. All right, the last 4 or 5 matchup has my draft crush in here, Mr. Zay Flowers. He wins the matchup over Sean Tucker, 61-39. John, talk about Tucker a little bit.
Tucker got a bad deal here. I mean, I'm not in love with Tucker, but I like Tucker a lot. I think his pass catching is being overlooked. And I think we have a classic example of film grinders versus production model. I'm not absolutely in love with the film. I know there's reasons to be critical of them, and I see that. But there are explosive big plays on film. People are looking at all the negatives sometimes. But my model loves him. He hits a home run on 40% of scrimmage yards dominator in a Power 5 conference, 64 career receptions, 5'10", 210. I mean, my model loves Sean Tucker. The film is good. Syracuse isn't a great team. Put it in some context. I really like him. I think he got a raw deal in the matchup because I love Zay too. But I think Tucker got a bad deal.
Good stuff. Ryan, what's your thoughts on Tucker?
I think this is the first one I disagree with John on. I do not like Sean Tucker at all. I kind of hated his film. And I thought he had the worst vision behind the line of scrimmage of any back coming out. Like, he could not find a hole or a cutback lane to save his life. Like, he broke
the road map. He couldn't find the hole.
Dude, like, he could break runs when he had, like, wide open runways. But if he had to look around or find anything, man, he was just running into his guards, and it was a struggle. And if you can't, we've seen good backs who've had in the NFL or guys drafted highly who have bad vision just fail. And that's all I can see. And I didn't think he's as good as some of his other ones with other natural things where you can kind of make up for it.
Good stuff. So that wraps up round 1. So we eliminated 16 guys. We'll move into the Sweet 16, and for the rest of the show here, we're just going to alternate players so we can speed it up a little bit, and we'll just go one at a time so we can get through all these guys. First one, Ryan's going to be an easy one. I'm going to go to you first here. The 1-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference. Bijan Robinson wins 84-16 over Tajay Spears. Talk about Bijan real quick.
I thought we talked about losers, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Tajay Spears.
Dude. I made the big mistake earlier. It just rubbed off.
It did.
I like Tajay Spears, man. He's an exciting young player. He just missed my top 5. I think he's very quick. He was really good at finding cutback lanes. He was able to bounce outside while he manipulated his speed to keep defenders off balance. There's a ton to like about him. I think he definitely finds a role on an NFL team and could definitely have starting potential. Good
stuff. All right, John, you have the other matchup in the East. Number 3, Michael Mayer versus the number 2, Anthony Richardson. Richardson wins the matchup 62-38. So talk about Mayer and his combine that supposedly hurt him.
I'm still a big Mayer guy. I think the NFL is going to draft him in the first round. He's a 2-way tight end. He doesn't have Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce upside as a receiver, but he's going to be on the field all 3 downs. He can run block. He's not as good as Darnell Washington, but he can still block well. He's a problem in the red zone, 6'5", 249. He's a football player. Maybe he's capped at 62 receptions, 800 yards, and 7 touchdowns, but he's still a really good prospect fantasy tight end. I have him a little graded higher than Pat Freiermuth. So I do like him very much, but I think he's in that bucket. I just think he's a little better than Freiermuth.
Good stuff. Yeah, I thought it was funny that people were downgrading him for his speed, that we went into it thinking that he wasn't going to be that fast. And the comp was Jason Witten. And if you look up Jason Witten's his 40 time, they're exactly the same. They were in the exact same 40 times. So they did what he expected them to do, and they still downgraded him.
Don't double hit somebody. Like, if you watch them and you grade him for being slow, don't do it again.
Yep.
You knew that.
No one who watches football said Michael Mayer was an elite athlete.
Never.
No one. If you watch
not
film,
a single person.
Yes.
100%. All right, we'll move to the next, the North round here. We got the number one quarterback, or the number one seed, Bryce Young, versus wide receiver Keyshawn Butte. Young wins this one 84-16. And I'm going to go to you, John, for Butte, because we already know Ryan's thoughts on him. He's hated him from day one, but give me your thoughts on Butte.
Maybe the second biggest faller throughout this process. I mentioned you can't coach size and speed. Well, you can't win with no speed and no size. Butte shows up. He's smaller than we thought, 5'11", 195, so he's not elite from a frame and height standpoint. He ran a 4.50. That's just bad for an LSU receiver who's supposed to be a home run hitter. And this stat is really concerning. His receiving yards per team pass attempt, you're looking at a benchmark of 2 to be an all-pro 2.5. He's 1.74. That's really, really bad. So Butte has fallen a ton in my book.
100%. All right, you got the other North matchup, Brian. Zach Evans, running back, loses the matchup to Quentin Johnston, 21-79. So you got Zach Evans here.
I mean, he just hit John's benchmark at that 200 coming in at 202, but he didn't do anything, so we don't know if it's real weight there. I like Zach Evans a lot. I think he follows the blocker well. He has really nice acceleration. He broke big plays. He runs through arm tacklers. I think for how small he is, he runs a little too hard. As dumb as that sounds, like
No.
I have injury concerns with somebody who runs that hard when you're barely that weight. Like, no fear is a good thing, but sometimes a business decision is necessary. I think he'd be really great in a rotation. I think he can end up being a high-end RB2 in fantasy. Like, there's a lot to like in Evans, but there's just a couple of little concerns there.
Fair enough. All right, we'll go to the West matchup here. We got the number one seed CJ Stroud up against the number four seed Tank Bigsby. And I'm gonna go to you. Let's go to you, Ryan, on Tank Bigsby. Talk about him a little bit.
I know why you did that. It's for John for the next one.
Yeah.
Tank Bigsby, like, I feel like his name was just misleading on him. Like, you think he was going to be this big back. I think he's going to be a nice little rotational third down back in the NFL. He's really quick, a nice start-stop. He accelerates well. He somehow works north and west, east, south, north, south, east, west at the same time. He tends to bounce too much and doesn't really go like inside. He's not a really great inside runner, but I think he's going to be he'll be a rotational piece and change of pace guy for a team. I don't know if he's going to be much more for that.
And as Ryan alluded to, the next matchup in the West was running back Zach Charbonnet versus Jordan Addison. Zach Charbonnet loses this matchup 30-70, and we know this listening podcast that John's a big Charbonnet fan. So go ahead and give us your thoughts here.
Well, I've mentioned it before. You can't coach size. He's 6'0", 214. He's a power back. He's a goal line back. He's a 3-down back. He's a pass catcher. He ran a 4.53, and if you look at some of his RAS score and the burst and explosion for his size and everything, he's a very underrated athlete. I know he's not a Najee Harris pass catcher, but he's good enough. His hands are good enough. He just isn't a great route runner. I just love that. He's my number 2 running back. You can put him on all 3 downs, and I want size. I want speed, home run ability. Charbonnet's my guy at number 2.
Nice. I like it. Number 2. That's pretty rich there. I like it. All right. So let's go to the next one here. The number 1 seed, Jackson Smith-Njigba, wins his matchup versus my boy Zay Flowers. He was at number 4. He wins the matchup 76-24. And I'm gonna go to you, Ryan, because the other guy that lost in this round you already talked about accidentally.
Oopsies. Jeff, you sure you don't want to talk about this one player because you love him so much?
I mean,
I'm willing to give that up to you because you're such a fan.
Yes, I love Zay Flowers. So I don't watch college football, unlike John, who watches probably every college football game, it seems. I don't watch college football at all. I started watching these players after the season is done. I'm trying to learn their names at that point. And, I watched the highlights. I watched a little bit of game film. And quite honestly, I watched the first couple of receivers and I wasn't really impressed. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I heard a lot about him. I watched him. I didn't see anything great. I know everybody loves him, and I've since changed my mind on him a little bit. But when I got to Zay Flowers, he just popped. I mean, he just really popped off the screen to me, and I almost put him up. I think I currently have him on receiver 3. I put him over Addison finally. And I love Zay Flowers so far, and I'm really curious to what John thinks about him because I've kind of fallen in love with him. So I'm a little bit biased on this one.
Hey, he's my number 3 receiver also. I don't use this. I'm not using this as hyperbole, and people might have heard me say this on other podcasts or shows. He has the dog in him. He has a little bit of Antonio Brown and Steve Smith. And that could be good or bad, depending on one's perspective on that.
Hopefully more Steve Smith.
There is so much fight in him. I mean, he plays like he's Julio Jones big, but man, he's quick twitch athlete. He wants the football. He's physical. I love Zay.
Yeah,
he's been great, man.
He seems to play angry, which is what I like.
He does. He plays angry, man.
All right, the next matchup here is the 3-2 matchup. Josh Downs loses his matchup versus Jahmyr Gibbs. And John, real quick, talk about Josh Downs.
My model is absolutely in love with Josh Downs. He has the highest team dominator rating of all the prospects at 40%. His receiving yards per team pass attempt is off the charts at 3.5. I was saying 2 is a good benchmark. 2.5 is all pro. He's 3.5, but he shows up at the combine at 5'9", 171.
Yeah.
I think he's a slot / inside receiver. He's clearly not an X right now. Maybe you motion him into the Z, but he's going to make a living out of the slot. Now, he might be, I keep saying Cole Beasley. And there's nothing wrong with what Cole Beasley did from a fan. He was a nice number 3 fantasy receiver at the top of his game. But I think his upside is limited now. He's just a very good receiver with not a huge ceiling anymore.
Agreed. All right, we'll move into the Elite 8. And the next matchup was Bijan Robinson versus Anthony Richardson. Richardson loses the matchup 88-12. Ryan, give me your thoughts on Richardson.
I mean, obviously, we talked about you alluded to it earlier. He was an absolute athletic freak in nature. Not only is he a good athlete, he has a huge arm. He can make all the throws. He runs well. That said, there's consistency and accuracy issues. He forces the ball a lot, tends to trust it a little bit. But, he was working with not the best surrounding cast in Kentucky, so he did have to put a lot on himself where you might have to make some plays. But I think he's gonna be a little bit of a project, and I don't know if you want him starting day one for you in the NFL. But from a fantasy perspective, if he gets that starting job, he's going to be fantasy gold, man.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, if you look at Justin Fields' passing numbers, they're very pedestrian this past year. He ended up QB6 because of that ability. So
I'm more concerned about his passing for getting him on the field quicker than fantasy production because his legs are going to get you that.
Yeah,
because he's an absolute freak in nature.
All right, John, we're going to move down into the North Division. Bryce Young versus Quentin Johnston. Johnston loses 75-25. So give me your thoughts on Johnston. And is he your number 2? I know you said you had Zay Flowers number 3. Is he your number 2?
He is my number 2. And when we were talking about Cedric Tillman, I said he was the number 2 X receiver, if you want to break it down. Quentin Johnston right now is the number 1 X receiver in my book. 6'3", 208. 19 yards per catch. There are some concerns. We don't have a 40 time yet. We need to get him on his pro day. I really, and he doesn't have to be a speedster, but we don't want an outlier for a 40-yard dash. We just want a nice, solid, like Tillman, nothing. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be good. I think I know. Watching enough film, he's wildly inconsistent in games. And all I've said to everyone, watch the game against Michigan in the playoffs where he was great, and then subsequently watch him the next week against Georgia. 1 catch for 3 yards.
Oof.
I mean, all you have to know about Quentin Johnston is those 2 games. and I've probably watched 15 games of Quentin Johnson over the last 3 years. But those 2 games, to me, illustrate the ceiling and the floor of Quentin Johnson.
Good stuff. All right, let's move into the West Division, Ryan. We got CJ Stroud versus Jordan Addison. Addison loses this matchup 78-22. So give me your thoughts on Addison here.
Dude, Addison's as safe as they come, man. Like, Addison is just a really good football player. He can play he can get deep. He's great in space. He's able to create separation. He's a technical route runner. He gets open anywhere. He's anywhere, man. He sounds like he catches everything. Dude, there's nothing to dislike on Addison. Like, any team that gets him, he's day one starter, impact player.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy, but you know what? I bet he hovers from that like 8 to 15, 16 range for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
You're hitting a solid double with him. You don't need to go for a home run every time. He's a solid double you're leaving the draft happy with.
I like it. Yeah, that's kind of what I heard about him a lot. Is he's the safest one. He has the highest floor of a lot of these guys. All right, let's move down into the South Division, John. You got Jackson Smith-Njigba versus Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs loses this matchup 58-42 in the closest matchup in this round. And you mentioned earlier who your running back 2 was. So obviously it's not Jahmyr Gibbs, who seems to be the consensus number 2. So give me your thoughts on Gibbs here.
He's my number 3. Now, he comes in at 199, and I've talked a little bit about that 200-pound threshold. It's important. But I'll say this. Jahmyr Gibbs is in the margin of error. If you're 198 to 202, you're probably all about the same. So he's right there. I think he's a better pass catcher than he is a running back. He is off the charts good. He's in the Najee Harris pass catching, Saquon Barkley bucket for a pass catcher. He has a tremendous role ahead of him. My concern is I don't think he has touchdown equity ahead. He's not going to be your goal line guy. Now, if you have injuries, could you put him in? Sure. But I don't think he's going to get 12 touchdowns a season. I think he's a 7 or 8 touchdown guy. You might get lucky and, 1 year they have to use him. So that's why I have him at number 3. And I am a little concerned with his ability between the tackles. I don't think he's great between the tackles. I think he's good, but he's not great.
Good stuff.
What you said with the low touchdown production, but if he catches 80 to 90 balls, does that matter?
Well, if
there are 80, 90 targets, does that matter?
I have him projected at like 60 receptions. So he's number 3, but that's why I just have him at 3 instead of 2.
That's
a
fair.
Touchdown. Fair. All right, we're into the elite. The elite. We're into the final 4 here. We got Bijan Robinson versus Bryce Young on the left side here, and I'll go to you, John. Bryce Young loses this matchup 86-14. So give me your thoughts on Bryce Young. Is he still your quarterback number 1?
He's actually not. He has been my quarterback number 2 since Thanksgiving. I moved CJ Stroud above him. Oh, I won't say anymore. But I do like Bryce Young, 5'10", 204. I'm a sizeist. I'm sorry. He's a little undersized. I know he could be Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, but those guys were a little heavier than him, and they went later in the draft. They were second-round picks for Drew Brees, and I think Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. So you're looking at a guy, I think there's a little bit more risk here. I love him. I like him, but he's not my number 1. Ooh, all right. Someone else has Charbonnet number 2.
Yep.
Ah!
All right, Ryan, you got the other side here. You got CJ Stroud versus Jackson Smith-Njigba. Pretty close matchup, 59 for Stroud, 41 for Jackson Smith-Njigba. So you got Jackson Smith here. Talk about him.
Jackson Smith just won back-to-back real tight ones, or this back-to-back tight ones. He didn't make it for this one. He's my wide receiver 1. I love Jackson Smith-Njigba. I know he didn't run the 40 at the combine. I don't care. He didn't need to. His 3-cone was awesome. We knew he wins from his quickness, elite route running. He's an absolute monster, middle deep of the field. He runs well with the ball in his hands. Even if you consider him just a slot receiver, like a lot of people do, it doesn't matter. Like, he's going to be super high volume. He's going to get 130, 140 targets in the NFL. with his skill set, just because he knows how to get open. He catches everything. He plays well. He high points the ball. There's so much to like there.
Good stuff. All right. We are down to the final two here, and we'll just talk about both these guys. John, we haven't heard your thoughts, on Bijan Robinson yet. So go ahead and kick it off here with Bijan.
First, I just want to thank Carson. I guess he's watching us. If I pronounce his name right, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed Devi, and I appreciate the kind words. I saw Jeff put it up on the screen. I appreciate that. I mean, in my rankings of 10 years, this is my 10th anniversary doing my files on footballdiehards.com and 4th year working with Matt on the rookie big board. The bucket that Bijan Robinson is as a prospect, there's only 4 that are close to him: Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and Breece Hall. That's it. And before Breece Hall got hurt, we saw how great it looked like he was going to be. So he's in an elite bucket. He's easily as good as Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, and I love those two. I love Bijan Robinson. I'm taking him number 1 in super flex drafts. I don't care. The ceiling is sky high. Pass catcher, goal line, home run hitter, size, strength, power. And then what I like about him, Ryan said about Sean Tucker has no vision. I think Bijan Robinson has the best vision between the tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And his lateral jump cuts, no man at 219 should be able to literally jump cut like he does. It's amazing what he does.
It's
So,
like
yeah,
he teleports.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan, on Bijan?
I mean, what can you say? He's phenomenal. Like he's the best. He's on the best prospect. John, where do you put him like overall for your running backs, not just rookies? Where do you have him like in your if you're dynasty drafting today? Where's he at? Running backs?
Oh, geez, probably.
I put you on
might
the
take
spot.
him
I'm
with the
sorry.
3rd overall pick after the quarterbacks.
So I just took him the first running back in a Devi draft. So.
Oh, I mean, he's the first quarterback off the board, or running back. It would only be Patrick Mahomes would be really hard for me to bypass, and Josh Allen, and then it might be Bijan.
Bijan, wow.
Yeah.
Let John finish it out because this is his QB1.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is your QB1, John. Give us your Stroud love.
I fell for Stroud about halfway through the season. I was like, the more I watched him, the more I liked him. And I think that Georgia game, even though it was a loss, that cemented it to me. He's 6'3", 215. I don't think people really understand how big CJ Stroud is. And his touchdown to interception ratio is 85-12. He completed nearly 70% of his passes. His passing efficiency is 182.4. I think he has the best deep ball in the class. I think he's the 2nd best intermediate thrower. I think Bryce Young on the intermediate routes is gold. And then I think Stroud throws he knows a little timing off his passes. I love CJ Stroud. He can throw the football at the NFL level. He can take the pounding. We know it's hard for every quarterback going to the NFL. But he has the physical stature, the arm strength, and the size and the intellect to succeed at this level.
Good stuff. All right, so that wraps up the bracket tournament. So we're going to get to our forgotten fantasy player.
Get ready for goingfor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, John, since the last time you were on, we kind of changed it up a little bit. We've been doing this for so long. So now instead of giving us your player, you're going to give us some hints. So hopefully you didn't go back too far.
This is the first time I've been afraid.
Yeah.
Since we changed the format. I'm going to be honest. This is the first time I've been nervous since this format started.
All right, first hint. Went to Nebraska.
That's not going to help me at all. Ryan, I'm going to help you.
Rondane?
What?
Rondane?
No, but that's a good. He went to Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Number 2. Let me think. Did not become a star with the team that drafted him.
Did not become a star. That's still tough. I'm trying to think.
How long ago are we talking?
Turn of the century. 3rd hint. He was in the LaDainian Tomlinson era. That's why he gets lost.
Oh, what's his name? Rudy Johnson. Is that his name?
I like that's a good guess, but it's not Rudy Johnson of the Bengals. Next hint: 6,000-yard seasons with a high of 1,883 yards. 1,883 yards.
Priest Holmes.
Oh, you're getting closer.
Pretty close.
You're getting close. Here's some of his pass catching numbers. Receptions in his prime: 73, 62, 57, 50.
Wasn't Fred Taylor, was it?
No, but that's a good one too.
Damn, I'm trying to think of running backs that
Caught
got
passes.
drafted and then changed teams and became a star. Because
He was was he in LaDainian's draft class?
No, I think he was 1 or 2 years ahead of LaDainian. Next hint: played with Brett Favre.
Well, Gerson's got Amon Green in the chat there. So I'm just gonna
That's
guess.
it.
Good job, Gerson.
Good job, Gerson. I just saw it in the chat.
Dude, I saw it and I saw
Green.
immediately said never mind. I'm like,
Yeah, great guess, Gerson. Good stuff.
Hey, he was so good, Amon Green, man. I mean, but he was never the number. He was always like the number 2 or 3 running back. But this year is silly. Look, I mean, if he did this now, he would be a fantasy god. 1,883 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns,
huge.
50 receptions, and 5 more touchdowns receiving.
Wow, that's insane. I can't even fathom those numbers now.
He was 26 years of age in 2003.
On the supposed cliff for running backs. Yeah.
On the cliff. And then the next year, you know, he had a good year. He had 1,163 yards and 40 receptions. Not great, though. But
Still.
6,000
12
yards
years in the league, too.
What?
12 years in the league, too.
He was, I mean, it was funny when I love doing this segment with you. And I'm like, do people remember Amon Green? I started doing a Google. I'm like, he's not in the Hall of Fame. No one talks about him.
Nope.
The numbers are off the charts impressive. He was a great back.
Good pull. I love it. I love doing these with John. That's awesome. All right, man. That wraps the podcast up. I want to thank you, John, once again, as always, for coming on and slumming it with me and Ryan. Again, this is your 4th year doing this, and we love it every year. Like I said, you know, the chat's been popping here. Everybody loves John. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And if you want to just give him your Twitter handle one more time and plug anything you're working on.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. It's awesome coming on with you two. I'm definitely not slumming it. I consider I'm in the penthouse when I come on with you two.
Appreciate
me on that one. But follow me on Twitter at GridironSkull91. I couldn't afford the A and the R. And if you want to see all my written work, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that a ton. My written work is on footballdiehards.com along with my model. I mentioned it a few times. You can check that out there. And then on the Rookie Big Board channel on YouTube, you can find Matt Hicks and I. We do the breakdowns. What's about 11 minutes each show. Right now we have 23. And tomorrow's Darnell Washington, our 24th player profile. We're going to go up to a minimum of 32. And then we'll see what we're going to do.
Good stuff. Ryan, what you got going on?
Yeah, same old, same old. Find me here Wednesday nights. Find me also at the Rookie Big Board. I do my show with Andy Coranti and Eric Adams. And we come out on Wednesdays talking Dynasty.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. And please check out all of our shows on the Going for Two Live Network. We have shows literally every night of the week. Me and Ryan will eventually get around to doing these rookie profiles. We were supposed to do it last week and it fell through. And then on Monday, I completely forgot we were supposed to do it.
Dude, it was like 10 o'clock. It was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, was I supposed to do something tonight? And I'm like, Jeff forgot too. So we're just going to see if he even remembers.
Yeah, I remembered tonight, actually, on the way. I was like, oh, man, we should have done that on Monday. But I promise you, they will be coming eventually. We'll get those rookie profiles out. All right, for John, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.